little uncalled for. I mean, come on, not everybody in Massachusetts loses their way in an apple orchard. But the reason that this is funny is because it shows just how much people have lost touch with reality. I mean, here in Texas, all right, the idea of getting lost on 200 acres, it's hilarious. I mean, everybody's got a 200-acre ranch or knows somebody with a 200-acre ranch somewhere. Some people have a 5,000-acre ranch. Yeah, you could get lost on that, but even then, follow the fence line, people. Follow the sun. You know, don't you know east from west? I mean, they parked their car. Here, the news says their car was parked about only half a mile away. Wow. And then, as night began to fall, they became frightened that they wouldn't be able to find their way back. Well, that's what the breadcrumbs are for, people. You should leave breadcrumbs. And so they called 911 and had to get rescued out of an apple orchard. Folks, if you get lost picking fruit, you're going to have a real hard time dealing with the globalists and the global economic collapse that's coming. Believe me, maybe you should carry a flashlight with you. Huh? A flashlight, you know? A magical little device that turns batteries into light. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Photons right out of the front of that little beam delivering device. That it works wonders. And you could also carry a compass, maybe. But they did have their cell phone. Yes, indeed. They did have their cell phone, so they could call 911. And I wonder what that call must have been like. Hello, 911 operator. Can we take your call? Yes, I'm surrounded by apples. It's like being attacked by the ghost of Steve Jobs. How did they get out of that? Oh, my. Lost in an apple orchard. And then in a related story, here we go. And we're going to have Robert Scott Bell on here in a few minutes. I can't wait for his comments on this. In a related story, the Bay Area experts weigh in on GPS shoes for Alzheimer's patients. I don't really have a picture for that. Sorry, guys. GPS shoes for Alzheimer's patients. All right? So the idea is that your parents or your grandparents, they've got Alzheimer's. Why? Well, because they've been drinking all the metals in the water supply and being injected with all the metals from the vaccines, and they've been drinking the fluoride and so on and so forth. We know all about that stuff that people do to give themselves Alzheimer's. But then these Alzheimer's patients, they tend to wander off. Of course, if you're this couple in the apple orchard, you don't even need Alzheimer's to do that. You just go out and start picking apples, and it's over. It's like Dementia City, I guess. But these people, these Alzheimer's patients, they wander off, and that's dangerous because they don't know where they are. Sometimes they don't know how to get back. So now they're pushing GPS shoes so that you can track them. You can bring up a website, and you can say, oh, there's Grandpa. Yeah, on the corner of 4th and Main, once again. Chugging shots at the Irish bar. That's not Alzheimer's. That's something else entirely. So now they want to push these shoes on us. Now, Alex warned you about this, if you recall. Alex warned you about exactly this thing. He said, look, first they're going to roll out the RFID tracking chips in your pets. And then they're going to push them on your parents and your grandparents and your Alzheimer's, your senior citizens people. And then they're going to push them on your children, because children might get lost too. And then finally it's going to be, well, if they're good enough for your children and your grandparents and your dog, then they're going to push them on everybody. Everybody should be tracked. What if you got lost? What if you went on a fruit-picking expedition and couldn't find your way back? Wouldn't you want to be able to press a button and have the authorities locate you by your shoes? Oh, that's a good one. Why not just have GPS underwear, for that matter? I mean, you could lose a shoe. At least, for the most part, you would probably still have your underwear on, no matter what kind of fruit you were picking out there in the orchards. GPSunderwear.com. Somebody patent that before it gets taken by the globalists. All right, a little bit of humor here. Unbelievable. All right, Robert Scott Bell is on the phone with us, or I think he's joining us by Skype. That's great. So let's go to Robert now, and let's have some coverage of the Raw Milk Freedom Riders event that just took place a couple days ago. Robert, are you with us, man?
Yeah, Mike, I'm here. Thanks for having me on board tonight to report on an amazing event traveling from Pennsylvania on down to the FDA in Washington, D.C. It was actually quite historic to see what a group of courageous, somewhat angry, but really pleasant moms can do to change the world.
Yeah, well, you were right there. You were an embedded reporter in that whole caravan. What was it like there, Robert? Describe the energy. I know that Adam Kokesh from Adam versus the Man was there as well. Describe the people that you saw. What actually took place during that really an historic protest for food freedom?
They were really quite revolutionary. I mean, on one hand, it was really kind of interesting because when you think about doing a revolution, you think of serious warriors armed to the teeth, etc. And here I was with a bunch of, homeschool moms, super moms, housewives. I mean, these people were amazing. We get up to Pennsylvania to grab the raw milk, or the illegal FDA contraband, as it's called. And at this point, they're starting to decorate the vans. I mean, this is not like a revolution I think they would have envisioned back at the time of Patrick Henry or anybody, but it worked nonetheless. And they start postering the vans, writing on. I almost felt like I was back in high school getting ready for the homecoming. And I was just amused by the scene because it was so peaceful and so not intimidating. Yet at the same time, these women had contacted the FDA and said, listen, come and get us. We're going to get the raw milk. We know it's a violation of your federal law, and you're going to call us criminals, but we're taking this stuff over the border, and you come and get us.
Well, yeah, that's a really important point. Is that was it Max Kane who called to report a crime to the FDA, right?
Yeah, they reported the crime and everything. So it wasn't like these women were sneaking around and hopefully they weren't going to get caught. I mean, they were literally prepared to get arrested and not see their family for 24 hours or however long it would take. And I had the great fortune and opportunity to meet with these women, many in their homes, met their little children. These were kids. None of them were unhealthy. They were all drinking raw, real milk, eating, some of them, a pretty Paleolithic diet, but the kids were fine. And I was just amused by the whole scene, at the same time recognizing the serious nature of it. I mean, there was two things going on, and being embedded in there, Mike, it was just an amazing thing to be part of that history. Now, and so carry on down right to the border. We fully expected to have state troopers or FDA agents right at the border with Pennsylvania and Maryland stop. They took pictures, interviewed by some reporters that were there. Of course, Adam Kokesh was also filming. And it was really quite. I stayed in the van because I was literally broadcasting live during this whole event, including through TV uploads. And so we continued on down. We passed a number of troopers along the way. But the spirits were high. I was interviewing some of these moms.
Wait a minute, Robert. The troopers did not stop you and search your vans, even though they had pre-knowledge that this was a criminal event taking place?
We were nervous a little bit as we approached some troopers on the side of the road, but apparently they were just setting speed traps, more or less interested in making a ticket quota than they were in these moms. And it was, literally all over their vans. There was no question about what was going on here. And these women actually had their own handcuffs, and they were going to handcuff themselves to the milk that they were bringing.
Oh, man, that's great stuff. But, okay, so they went across state lines. They bought the raw milk in Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah.
And then they were carrying it across state lines into Maryland. Now, that is a violation of FDA regulations.
Yeah, the prohibition of interstate transport of not drugs, but raw milk, food. In fact, food that has sustained life on planet Earth for perhaps thousands of years that suddenly, in the span of the last 20 or 30, became illegal and dangerous. So these women were really, like I said, courageous women. Let the women lead you in this case, as they have also in the vaccine awareness arena with all the children that are being harmed there. We were part of this history. We made our way down to Silver Spring, Maryland. And as we approached the FDA, that's where it became a little bit nerve-wracking. The ladies were looking around within the vehicles, and we saw lines of police cars and Homeland Security outside the not pearly gates of the FDA.
Okay, let's get to that in just a second. But first, how could the FDA have neglected to arrest these raw milk criminals, given that the FDA's position is that raw milk is so dangerous that transporting it across state line for the intent to consume it is such a criminal act that it can kill little children? How on earth could they have not arrested these terrible criminals? isn't that a gross violation of the FDA's commitment to public safety or something?
Well, you would think so. I mean, literally, it's on the books, although we would call that law unconstitutional. But the reality is they've, taken part in horrific sting operations, multi-jurisdictional from federal, state, and local authorities, whether it be in Rossum in California or whether it be Dan Alger, the Amish farmer in the Baltimore, Maryland area. So, you fully expect that they were going to take a hard line on this. So why didn't they? It's a good question. Now, these women did not look like hardened criminals. They were tenacious in defense of their family and their children, but they were, absolute sweethearts. Couldn't have had better hospitality being up there with them. But as we approached, it was a little nerve-wracking. Were they going to arrest? As we pulled up into the park to try and go down into the parking lot, they stopped us and said, "No, you're not allowed in. You got to turn around." And they basically sent us across the street into the neighborhood. So they were not interested in arresting these women at all. In fact, 100, 150 people were already there with raw milk and, speaking, protesting, signs were waving. As people were going by, there was more milk to give away than I'd ever imagined would be there.
It was like a milk fest.
It was. I think they were intimidated, honestly. And as we find out, the FDA themselves wrote, made a release, a major release on this day, and we learned that, in fact, they talked to Liz Reitzig, one of the the organizers of this event, and they basically had said, "We're not going to arrest you." In fact,
all right. Well, hold on, Robert. We'll get to that. We'll get to that letter in just a second. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Let's get to that letter in just a second. But first, the issue why they did not arrest these women, let's make sure that this is well understood by those watching and listening. It is because the FDA operates in darkness, okay? The FDA operates shrouded by secrecy. They have a network of spies who infiltrate the raw milk community and try to purchase raw milk from these farmers. I mean, it is an infiltration network of spies. This is with covert cameras. With giving a secret testimony behind the scenes. Oh yeah, we caught this store or this farmer selling raw milk. We caught these eggs weren't refrigerated. All these terrible things. But when you go face to face with the FDA and you say, "Come arrest us. We're going to drink this milk, or even sell this milk right in front of you, in front of your headquarters," they say, "What? Huh? What? What are you talking about? No, there's nothing going on."
Nothing to see here. I think it shows their cowardice, and the reality also is that they know how absurd these laws are as well. We've talked about this would be one thing, because these women don't want war. They just want to be left alone. Leave us alone. Let us care for our kids the way we believe is right.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what America is founded on, this fundamental freedom to not have our lives interfered with by the government. But of course, the raw milk thing is the pivotal point of food freedom in America, and that's why this was so important. Now let's get to the letter and the conclusion of what the FDA did in this case, because the FDA essentially they refused to arrest the women, even though they say they're criminals. In the letter, then they revealed, we will selectively not arrest certain